Hey y'all, and welcome back to another episode of Door to Deceit. I'm your host Ash, and I'm happy you're here. First, I want to thank y'all for the support on episode 1. I really worked hard on it, so I appreciate the love, and I really hope y'all enjoy this episode. But now that the housekeeping is out of the way, let's get into this case. Now y'all, this one is actually insane. The main people in life we should be able to trust is family, right? Well, babes, this case is gonna make you rethink that. Our story begins in Chulliota, Florida, with the Amato family. The family of 5 consisted of Margaret, a mother of 3 boys, Jason, the oldest from a previous relationship, Cody, the middle child, Grant, the baby, and then there was the father, Chad, who adopted Jason at 3. Life leading up to the gruesome murders was good for the Amatos. Chad and Margaret were hard workers, and along with their primary house, a 4-bedroom home sitting on almost 3 acres of land, in 2019 when the crimes occurred, the couple had just purchased a home in Tennessee where they planned to retire. Now, on to the sons. There wasn't much info I could find on the oldest son, Jason, but from what I could find, in 2019, he was living and working away from the family in Winter Springs, Florida. The other brothers, Cody and Grant, however, were still living at home and were as thick as thieves. Grant admitted they fought a lot when they were younger, but by the time high school hit, the two joined the weightlifting team together and they were close ever since. They attended nursing school together and then went on to study to become nurses to anesthesiologists. Now, this is where I would say Grant's documented issues started, because where Cody went on to graduate, Grant dropped out. He was able to find work as a nurse at Advent Health Orlando, however, but in June 2018, he was let go for suspicion of stealing and improperly administering meds to patients. Allegedly, the hospital staff found a total of 8 empty vials of propofol, the sedative that killed Michael Jackson, in 2 rooms that Grant had been overseeing. The sedative hadn't been ordered by any doctors, so when Grant was questioned, he said that he gave the drug to patients who were not being adequately relaxed. Now, Grant, I know nurses are extremely hardworking, they're intelligent, and they're capable professionals, but unless you are a nurse practitioner, and that is only in certain states, I'm pretty sure there's no such thing as a nurse just administering an unregulated amount of an unprescribed drug to patients. Like, baby, how do I tell you you're going to jail? Like, that is crazy. You can just see the strength of his narcissism already. And as a nurse, that you have no authority to be giving out random drugs to people that can easily kill them as well, all willy-nilly, and yet you take it upon yourself to do it. Period. Grant, of course, was arrested and charged with grand theft, but trust, his issues did not stop there. Otherwise, we wouldn't be here. As a result of his stupidity at his job, he ended up falling into a deep depression and isolated himself. He spent most of his time sleeping all day and streaming his gaming on Twitch all night. He looked ghostly, thin, sickly, like a corpse with dark circles. And trust me, I'm not dragging him right there. This is what people said about him that he knew. And also, I get it. It's a normal reaction to being fired and having to sit with your own regret. It happens. That is real life. Grant, unfortunately, lived in Delulu land because online, he portrayed himself as a pro gamer with a lot of money. He had his own place. He had a BMW. Like, he was a real fly-ass dude, according to him online. But in reality, Grant was a balding, unemployed, 29-year-old 96 Honda Accord driver who mooched off of his entire family to survive and prop up his online persona. Now that was a little light drag. Anyway, Grant's delusions extended into his intimate life as well, obviously. His main infatuation was a woman named Sylvia, aka Sylvie, a Bulgarian webcam model. Now, Sylvie just did her job as a cam girl on the website called Cam Girls. Like, they were not creative at all, but yeah. So she just did her job. And I place absolutely no blame on her for the delusions of a madman. Like, I could see if sex work was a new thing, but this was 2018, 2019, right before OF blew up and the pandemic and shit. So at this point, everybody knew how this goes. People are not dumb. Cam girls have been a thing for hella long. For him to, girl, Anyway, let me not ride out on him. Anyways, he would send her gifts and videos of him begging for a video of her for free as if she was his girlfriend, because in his mind, she was, even though she was not. Without fail, every single night, Grant would watch Sylvie for hours. Mind you, watching her cost him 90 tokens per minute, and Grant would buy 5,000 tokens for $600 every time. Now, you might be asking, Ash, where was this balding bum getting this money from? Well, I'm glad you asked, babes. He was stealing. Yeah, he was stealing. Clearly, he had an issue with sticky fingers because he was stealing at that job and stealing up a storm within his family. In 3 months' time, Grant had stolen $200,000 of his family's money to contribute to his addiction to this woman who never claimed to even like him, let alone anything deeper. And when I say his family's money, believe I mean everybody. No one was safe. He stole from both of his parents and his brother Cody. I mean, that's a given. But when police investigated his computer, they found pictures of both his grandparents and uncle and a couple of cousins' credit cards. Like, nobody was missing it. So to accommodate for his screw-ups, his father Chad took out a second mortgage on their home to pay Grant's debt. Like, that almost makes me emotional. Like, I could feel it in my chest. This man really loved his son. His dad also footed the bill for his legal team's expenses for the charges he was facing for the theft from his job. Chad also ignored the fact that Grant illegally took out a line of credit in his name so he wouldn't get into more trouble. Like, he may not have been an angel, no parent is, but you can tell he loved his son. And as it always is with the people who don't deserve it, the generosity that this bastard Grant received didn't stop at his dad. His brother also was a godsend. By December 2018, the charges against Grant were dropped. So he and Cody decided they would go to Japan, a dream the two shared due to their love of anime. Now, if you know anything about international flights, especially to Japan, that shit is not cheap. Cody paid the entire tab for the two of them, a total of almost $10,000. Now, anyone else would have just been grateful as hell for a free trip to Japan, but of course, Grant can't do the right thing to save his goddamn life. So while on this free $10,000 vacation, this bald menace stole the credit card of the friend that came with them on the trip. This friend's name was Jericho Fine. So the tea is, they were at a restaurant while in Japan, and as they're talking and enjoying their time, Jericho looks at his phone and sees his Discover credit card has been frozen. Of course, he does what anybody else would, and he checks his card activity, and sure as shit, there's more than $600 worth of charges from a cam girl and lingerie website. Like, it just blows me because you're just a piece of trash. Like, who does this to people who care for you and who trust you? And mind you, there's been several accounts of this story. Some accounts say that he was at the table with them. Other accounts say that he stayed at the hotel, and that's like he had stole the card or whatever. He faked like he was sick. They went out to dinner, as in Jericho and his brother. And while they were gone, he stayed at the hotel and was basically using Jericho's card to talk to Sylvie. As we all know with Grant, the trouble just keeps on coming. So upon his and Cody's return home, Chad and Grant, now mind you, remember Chad's the dad, Chad and Grant were in nonstop fights about Grant's lack of employment, which, I mean, that's fair as hell. You just came off of a free fucking vacation. You've been gone forever long. You've been bullshitting this entire time, doing your little Twitch streaming or whatever to your little 2 viewers, girl. Like, it's time for you to get back in the saddle and get a damn job. Like, I don't think there's anything wrong with his dad asking for that, because not only are you unemployed, but you're a big bill, and you have no plans of stopping. So yeah, you're trying it and you need to get a job. Fast forward to December 19th, Grant decides to storm out after arguing with his dad again. After leaving the house, he texted his mom and said that he was really tired of everything and was just going to handle it his own way. Margaret's response to this shows how good of a mom she was. Instead of her banning him from the house or writing him off for everything that he'd done, she reported him missing to the cops because she was concerned that he was going to harm himself. Of course, that wasn't the case because, cowards never harm themselves, at least not first. So while his mom was all worried, Grant was off trying to suck the life out of yet another family member, his aunt, Donna Amato. He went to her house looking gaunt and exhausted, and he of course didn't deviate from his routine, and he spent the whole day sleeping and the whole night awake as long as he was staying over there. So it wasn't long before Donna noticed some random charges in her banking activity from, you guessed it, the Cam Girls website, where Grant watched Sylvie, this fucking freak. Donna, of course, called Chad because get your MFing son. Like, I opened my home to you and you steal from me? Yeah, come get this hoodlum you raised, babes, because he gotta go. But, of course, Chad tried his best to save Grant with his ungrateful ass, and he got Donna to not press charges. He told her he would pay her back and all this, and Donna also later told detectives that Chad told her on the phone, yeah, I'm gonna have to work a few more years than I thought I'd have to, but it's okay. I'll do it for Grant. I don't want him to go to jail. Love. Like, misguided in my opinion, but love nonetheless. Like, parenting does not come with an instruction manual, so I understand they did the best they could with what they had, and Grant took advantage of that to the literal fullest extent. By December 22nd, Grant's parents and both his brothers staged an intervention for him. They worked out that he would enter into a 60-day sex and porn addiction rehab program. You'd think this was a good thing, that he agreed to go and that he actually went. But after like 2 weeks, he dropped out of the program. A program that his brother, Cody, paid $15,000 for. So, yeah, that's already $25,000 down the drain for this bald, ungrateful bitch. Like, it's just crazy. He decided to leave the program January 4th. And by the next day, his dad was having a sit down with him and setting out some ground rules for him to be allowed to continue living in the house. First, he had to get a damn job. He had to pay his own new and dataless phone bill. He had to pay back his family all the money he owed them from stealing, and he had to go to therapy. He was also banned from speaking with Sylvie, and if he was caught talking to her in any capacity, he was getting put out of the house ASAP. Chad also got into Grant's PC and told Sylvie the entire truth about Grant. His lies and theft were now on full display to the object of his obsession, and she cut his ass off immediately after hearing all the crazy stuff he was doing. Chad also restored Grant's PC to factory settings and put a password on that bitch so he could not get back in. I know he was tight. Now, I'm not gonna lie, that's a little funny to me, but it sounds like all Chad was asking for was a little accountability. Like, you fucked up several times. You gave them your ass to kiss with the whole rehab thing, and they're still there. All they need you to do is stop being an overgrown bald toddler for 2 seconds. But alas, that's just too much for Grant to handle. By January 25th, just 20 days later, everything was over. When Cody didn't come into work, everyone knew something was wrong. It just made no sense, as in the past 5 years, he had not missed even one day. So here's where we get into the murders. In case you're the queasy type, I'll give you the Cliff's Notes version, and thank you for listening. As I'm sure you've surmised, Grant killed his brother, Cody, and their parents. In fact, when he was shown crime scene photos of his dead family and asked if he had any remorse, he said, "My family has been blaming me for months for ruining their lives, stealing, and not following the rules of the home, so I might as well be blamed for this too." So yeah, he did it. About guilty as hell. So you can go enjoy your night. Thank you so much for listening. Now, for those of you that stayed, let's get into these murders. Cody's co-workers were actually really vital here. They called the cops and asked for a welfare check on him at around 9 a.m. When the cops got there was no response, so after getting approval, they entered into the house through a side door. Immediately, the police were faced with the body of Cody Amato. He was found lying in the doorway between the home gym and the garage in the fetal position. He was still in his nursing scrubs from the day before, so it's surmised that he was shot as soon as he got into the house after getting home from work. Cody had been shot once below the eye, and near his body, his handgun was found. As police pressed further into the house, they came across the next victim, Chad Amato, in the kitchen. He was found face up with 2 gunshots to the head. It's important to note here that a handgun was found in a holster on his hip, but the gun itself was backwards. We'll come back to that later. The final victim found was Margaret Amato. She was found in her office slumped over her desk with one gunshot wound to the head. It's relevant to me personally to note that the last activity on her PC was at 444. It's presumed that was her time of death. So if you know me personally, hey, love you, thanks for listening. But yeah, if you know me, you know I love angel numbers. So of course I looked up 444 and its association with death, and I got the chills. So generally, this angel number is a positive thing, but in relation to death, it could be that a death will become apparent in your life soon. The spiritual meaning of 444 is that you're nearing the end of one phase of your life and you're ready for the next. Like, what is a bigger transition from ending one phase of life to the next than death? I mean, maybe that's just me and my spiritual hoo-ha. Don't worry about me, but that just blew my mind a little bit. Moving on with the story. Grant was, of course, not found in the home, and his phone was turned off. Cops put out an APB on that raggedy-ass car and found him the next day at the DoubleTree. So it was January 26th when he agreed to come down for questioning, and never once during any of it did he ask any questions himself. So once they got him in the station, they interrogated him for over 7 hours. I watched most of it, but to be honest, baby, I know y'all didn't think I was about to basically clock into a full shift to watch this bald bastard lie. So I'm going to give you the Cliff's Notes version. So 3 hours into the interview, motherfucker still didn't ask one question about his family. What happened? What's going on? Why am I here? Nothing. But while he was in that interview, he went on about his family, his streaming, about Sylvie. He even told them about the trip to Japan with his brother. He admitted to being idiotic and spending money that wasn't his, but in the same breath tried to paint his father as violent and angry and abusive towards the entire family aside from Cody. He went on to say that with him, as in his dad, it was every single day. He'd come home from work and then he would just talk to me about the same exact thing over and over again. Yeah, you're living off of them. You're spitting in their face at every turn by stealing from literally everyone. And on top of that, you keep doing it. Even if you get caught, even if you get reprimanded, nothing short of death is stopping you from continuing to fuck these people over. So yes, I can absolutely see why your father would want to talk about the same shit every day, because girl, you're clearly not getting it. The audacity. Anyway, Grant's version of what happened that day went like this. He was home all day getting ready for a job interview. His dad got home and they immediately got into it because he found out Grant was still talking to Sylvie on Twitter and he was using his mom's phone to do it. He claimed that Chad heamed him up and told him to get the F out. According to Grant, he packed. He and his dad ended up talking in the driveway and his dad gave him a credit card so he could get a hotel. Before they parted ways, Grant says he spoke with his brother and Cody walked him out of the house after. According to him, it was between 12 and 12:30 in the morning on January 25th when he left the house for the last time. Allegedly, the entire family was alive. Now, of course, police were not buying that shit, especially after speaking to Cody's girlfriend, Sloan, who claimed not only had Grant stolen around $60K from Cody, that's on top of the $25K he already spent being nice to him, he also stole his guns and sold them. She also said that Cody feared that Grant was becoming so unhinged that he would kill everyone, which unfortunately is exactly what the hell he did. But on January 28th, he was arrested and charged with 3 counts of premeditated first-degree murder. And he, of course, pled not guilty to all 3 charges. Now, let's get into the, in my opinion, notable attempts at a cover-up so we can wrap this on up. First, remember how I said his dad's gun was holstered backwards? Yeah, his dad was right-handed. And a right-handed person would normally face the grip of the gun to the right so they can, draw it faster, draw it easier. But the way it was placed, it would have been more suited for a left-handed person doing a crossbody draw, or for a son that was planting evidence, Next up, we have the gun that was found by Cody's body. Now, this gun had been recently fired and they did match bullet casings from it to ones found around the house. The issue here is that when doing forensics, they could not match the actual bullets in Grant's family members to those casings. So that let them know that this was not actually the murder weapon and that it was planted. Which brings us to the next point. Shortly after returning from Japan, Grant stole the suspected murder weapon from a friend's house while he was supposed to be hanging out and playing video games. The friend's name was Blake Turpin, and while another friend was there using the bathroom in the hall, he let Grant use the master bathroom. He alleges that Grant must have taken his chance then and took the gun. Blake reported the gun stolen as soon as he noticed it, but by then it was spring and the Amato family was already gone. The next point is within Grant's assumptions to police about what happened to his family, because eventually they did get him to kind of talk about it. They asked him questions. They asked what he thought could have happened at the house to get cops there, and he simply replied, a shooting. When pressed for between who, he responded, between my dad and Cody. Girl, what? Like, why would you suggest that? Why would you think that? You literally just said prior in the interview that your dad and Cody got along, basically. That your dad was abusive to everyone but Cody. So why in the fuck would they all of a sudden get into a shootout like it's the OK Corral? So cops then asked why he would think that, would happen. His response, to protect me or to help me or something to do with me. Again, girl, what? It's like he wanted to go to jail. Like, girl, why would you put yourself in the middle of it? Even if it's just like, I'm putting myself in the middle of it as the motive. What? Girl. Anyway, do y'all remember the talk that Grant allegedly had with Cody before he left the house for the final time? Well, Grant says that during that conversation, Cody told him, I will take care of it. Oh my God, y'all, I have to say it again. But girl, what? He then wrote a letter impersonating his brother. Now, of course, police caught on to this. They realized this is not Cody's handwriting, etc., etc. They called him on it, and he said that he was allegedly paraphrasing what his last conversation with Cody was about. The letter reads, Brother, they just told me what happened. Dad told you to pack your shit and get out of his house because you were caught texting that woman again. Grant, I'll take care of all your problems. I just need you back. I can't live without you, brother. I said I'd take care of all of your problems at the house, and I have. No one will bother you again regarding this. Just please come home. I can't do this again. If you think I'm part of the problem here, then I've really lost you, and I can't take that loss after everything. Ciao. Like, the psychological implications within this letter, like, Jesus. I'm not going to speak on it because that's not what this pod is for. And I don't have, a background in it. I'm just interested in psychology. But oh my God, this man's delusion and his narcissism knows no bounds. Literally none. You killed your brother who did everything for you. That wasn't enough. You had to also frame him with this letter and the bullet casings that you planted. Like, I have read about some real bastards, but this is just insane. The final attempt to thwart the investigation really isn't an attempt to thwart it. It really kind of just backfired on him, basically. During his interrogation, Grant said that his mom took out chicken to be cooked for dinner that night. Now, why is it that when investigators came the next day after the killings, the chicken was still on the counter? Clearly, he killed them early and he had hella time to get his plan together, and yet, thankfully, he still fucked up. As I hope you guessed, no one believed this BS, and on January 28th, 2019, they locked his ass up, and they did not let him use his parents' estate for bail, so his broke ass finally got a taste of the consequences that he has skated past his entire life. Prosecutors constructed a timeline of Margaret being the first victim at 4:44. Chad was shot soon after her at 5:25. But the first shot to his head didn't actually kill him. Detectives discovered a trail of blood on the floor, suggesting that he attempted to drag himself to safety. This is when he was shot the second time. A sick thing to note is that all of Chad's fingers were bloody but one. The one Grant used to unlock his USAA banking app at around midnight, the night of the massacre. 3 hours later, Grant paid another $600 to reopen his Cam Girls account. Jesus. It's important to note that after killing his parents, he waited over 4 hours in the house with their bodies. The parents who gave him everything, who gave him a place to live, clothes on his back, money in his pocket, etc. He sat there and he waited for his brother. Cody left work around 9:15, and he barely made it through the door before he was shot as well. Grant stood stone-faced as he was convicted of first-degree murder 3 times and sentenced to life. The jury deliberated for 8 hours, and I'm assuming that all of that was to decide if they were going to spare his life or not, because I promise you, if I was on that jury, baby, guilty, where the food at? Because, girl, I'm just waiting on y'all to get to the same conclusion. He's going to jail if I have anything to say about it. But that's also why I've never been picked for a jury trial. But no, on a serious note, killing your family is just so despicable to me. But for his family to clearly only want what was best for him and for them to support and love this bastard, only for him to end their lives and then use his dad's cold, dead hands to unlock his phone so he could steal more from him. Like, I am just in so much disbelief. The level of betrayal here seems like something out of a poorly written book or a movie or something. The amount of narcissism in this poorly formed human is just beyond me. Like, I really have no words for him other than rot in hell and soon. I tell you what, I'm about to get up on a little soapbox real quick, because one thing I will say is I'm tired of seeing that Grant became a killer for Sylvie or because of Sylvie. Stop blaming women for the shit that men do. And maybe some people are mentioning her for the clickbait like aspect of it, of saying that he killed his family over a cam girl, but fuck that, okay? She never asked him to do anything. She never asked him for anything. She definitely didn't ask him to kill nobody. She was doing her job. He was delusional. Let's keep the blame where the blame needs to go. Grant became a killer because he's a piece of shit. Period, point blank. He's spoiled and entitled and a brat, and I wish his fucking family and his parents had let him face consequences for his actions at some point in his life. It is safe to say that if they were protecting him this way when he was an adult, that he had been protected this way his whole life. And while some kids appreciate that, others, like Grant, take advantage because that's all they know how to do. And I know parents think saving their kid is their job, and sometimes it is, but other times you have got to let them bump their head. You have to let them face natural consequences so that they learn, A, you're not invincible. B, you cannot just do whatever the fuck you want. And C, there are consequences for your actions, babe. Whew. Sorry for the little tangent, but like, this case really just chaps my ass. Like, it's really crazy. But anyways, I'm out of here, y'all. I want to thank you so much for listening, and I hope you're leaving having learned some lessons. And if not, go back and listen again. I'll see y'all next time. And hey, do not forget to lock that door behind me. You never know what could come crawling in.